Who are you, really? We all move through life with preconceived notions about the self. This is the card I drew for this video this month of October. And last month I talked about being a disciple to the self. So this feels really apt to now be able to drop into, well, what is the self? Who are you really? Who am I really? Circling back to these preconceived notions, we are taught certain things about ourselves as we grow and as we age and as we evolve as human beings on this planet. A lot of what we learn is extremely important. It forms our values, our morals, our belief system, and teaches us how to be good human beings on the planet. Alternatively, sometimes the things that we learn about ourselves create limiting beliefs, or we gather evidence based on our experiences that then make us believe more in our not self than who we truly are at the core. In terms of yoga, when we speak of the self, we're talking about universal consciousness. And while I wholeheartedly love and admire this concept, today I want to talk more about our experience on this planet, in our meat suits, and how we move through the day-to-day, tapping into that universal consciousness, of course, but also just being a parent, a friend, a mom, a dad, a sister, an employee, whatever it is, whatever label you have for yourself in this human experience. When I think of the self, one of my favorite topics to discuss is the Koshas, or the levels or layers of our being. And there are 5 different ones that I'm going to talk about today, which are all interconnected. They all share very valuable information about where we may be feeling challenged, or the areas we can lean into more in order to experience more alignment in our lives. So of course, we've got the most obvious layer, which is our physical body, or Annamaya Kosha. This layer is how you experience the world around you. It's everything to do with your physical body. It's the vessel that you do things through. You see, hear, touch, and smell. It's also how you will experience all the other layers. Your body is going to tell you when something is out of alignment, for example. And when our bodies are out of balance, it can show up in very specific ways. This will apply to all of the layers, or all of the koshas. But only in our body can we sense what might be out of alignment. And then we can use that information and apply it to the other layers to notice where or what the feeling is stemming from and what may require attention or healing, and then bringing it back into our physical reality so we can embody it. So we can find the clarity, so we can make shifts, and we can take action towards alignment. Because this is what creates the self. In my opinion, in my very humble opinion, our actions create ourselves. We very often think about how we want to show up in the world, who we want to be, the people we want to spend our time with, or the ideas that we have. But until we take action on them, they're just thoughts. So the self, in fact, is created out of the actions that we take. So this physical layer, this physical body, is, of course, the most obvious and also very important. Full disclosure, I could talk about this for hours, so I'm keeping every layer brief so you can get a sense of what the koshas are all about. And side plug, I'm writing a book about the koshas in which I will go into depth into each layer, so you can expect that in the next year. That's putting pressure on me, but we'll see. Some practices to support the physical body, obviously, are to move your body in a way that feels good to you. Maybe it's yoga, dancing, walking, running, playing a sport, swimming, Pilates, literally anything that moves your body. Another way to support this layer is to just take action, like I was saying. Take action on a goal or a project that you're currently working towards, or maybe that means moving into a different energy to support the motivation to get started on something. Consuming healthy foods, drinking plenty of fresh and clean water, spending time in nature, and practicing embodiment. And by embodiment, I mean noticing an emotion within you and really giving it the time and space and allowance to be present and for you to actually feel it within your body. And of course, journaling anything that comes up for you is always a beautiful way to either anchor in energy or release things that are no longer serving you. And if you're into journaling, like I am, some prompts could include: what energy does this situation require? Is that the energy that I am in? If no, how do I move into that energy? What is my relationship with food, with exercise, with movement, with rest? What drained me of energy today? Is this a pattern for me? What brought me energy today? So those are a few things that will get you connected to your physical layer. The next layer is your energetic layer, your prana, maya, kosha. This layer is the next thing that you'll notice about yourself or another person may notice about you after the physical body. We refer to this layer as your aura, and this is affected by your breath, what you eat, your environment, the weather, the sun, the moon, the cosmos. It's energetic. One way to tune into this is noticing how you're breathing, or perhaps how someone else is breathing. If you notice that someone else is breathing very deeply in front of you, you will naturally pick up on that calm and relaxing energy, versus if someone is breathing very quickly or shallow in front of you. Even if I did that now on this recording, you might have felt like a fight or flight response start to kick in. Like, what's wrong? Something's happening. This is energy. This is energetics, this energetic layer that we are picking up on in ourselves and other people. Breath work is an extremely large part of this layer. So one way that you can tune into and help keep this layer healthy is by practicing conscious breathing techniques. One very simple one I'd love to share with you is simply called box breathing, where you would inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath at the top for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and then hold your breath at the bottom for the count of 4 and repeat. Beyond breath work, some other practices to support the energetic body are to keep a mood journal. You'll see in this journal that I'm writing in now, I also have like this little section where it's called In a Word. And that's where I tend to just write down my mood for the day. My mood changes a lot. I mean, let's be honest, I'm a double Gemini, but in general, I have kind of an overall theme for the day, and that's what I like to write down just to keep track, or I'll take a little note somewhere else if something pops up. And it's just a good way for me to tune into my own energy and to be present to what is present, so I can choose to either do something about it or to lean into it more. This is knowing the self. One of my favorite practices to support the energetic body is to choose a reminder. So for example, every time my dog barks, I will take 3 deep breaths. Or another example is every time you wash your hands, you can visualize any energies that are no longer serving you also being washed away. Some journaling prompts for this layer include: how does my breath move on a regular basis? When does my breath feel the most nourishing, and what makes it so? How do I see or envision my own aura? Those are just a few things to get you thinking about your energetic body. The third layer is your mental body, or the Manomaya Kosha. And as you start to move away from the physical and energetic body, this energy becomes more subtle. The mental body is your thinking mind, your intellect. It includes your thoughts, your emotions, and your capacity to learn. So it's everything you know, including your sense of self, aka your ego, and your personality. So there's a lot to unpack in this layer, which I'm not going to do in this video because it's a short one. And also, I really encourage you to dive into this on your own if it's something that intrigues you, because when you can look at the self from these 5 different layers and actually pinpoint which layer might need some attention, like I was saying earlier, you can really enhance the overall quality of your entire life and your entire sense of self. The not self also resides in the mental body. The not self being the limiting beliefs that you hold. For example, I'm too old to, or I'm too young to, I'm not smart enough to, I'll be judged if, I don't deserve to, I'll probably just fail at. If you've ever had some of this negative talk, a lot of that is tied to limiting beliefs that we hold about ourselves. This is a really beautiful place to investigate, to get into the shadow work, to start to heal these thoughts that are no longer serving you so you can really step into that highest self. What happens if we don't address these limiting beliefs is, in fact, they start to disguise themselves as our instinct. It ends up becoming your norm to react to certain situations based on how you are perceiving the events, which are filtered through this negative lens. Your mind is not going to solve your mind's problem. In fact, this is where the other layers come into play. You need to send that information into the other layers to digest, to process, to imagine, to feel, and allow a solution to reveal itself. Some practices to support the mental body are mindfulness. Be present, particularly when you are feeling emotional. Notice where you may feel a block in your body. What can you do to realign or create space in that area? Meditation works here, of course. Journaling is excellent. And again, I've got some prompts for you here. Which limiting beliefs did I learn from someone else in my life, and which are from my own experiences? What is something I see in my world that needs an emotional cleansing or a perspective shift? Getting even a little more subtle, the fourth layer is our intuitive body, or Vijnanamaya Kosha. This layer is your intuition, your faith, and your knowing. This is your deep wisdom. It's the voice that pops up when you least expect it, with the exact thing that you need to hear, aligned advice, full of clarity, messages from your witness self. The witness self being that awareness of your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. The neutral observer of your own life. One of the ways I love to tune into the intuitive body is by doing a head versus heart practice, where you would grab like a journaling page, split it in two, bring the situation to mind that's been resting on your heart or your head, and write everything down that you think about this situation. So empty your brain. This is what your head is saying. Maybe it's some negative stuff. Get it all out. And then on the other half of the page, this is what your heart says. This is where you would close your eyes, you would breathe deep, you would connect to your heart, and you would speak from that place instead. And then notice the difference between the two. It's kind of a lower brain activity versus a higher brain activity. And it's a really powerful tool to tune into your intuition. Some of the other ways I love to practice supporting the intuitive body include oracle cards, obviously, spending time in nature, just being creative. Like, this is what this journal is all about for me, is just creating a space that I get to be creative every day, whether it's just simply coloring or designing or using the cards and being intuitive. This is just that space that I have reserved in my day to tap into my own intuition. And another beautiful thing is just to escape from your daily routine. Try a day of clearing your schedule and just do things that are unplanned in the moment from the heart because you want to, not because you have to. Some journaling prompts here would be, is this choice or event or idea guided by my higher or my lower brain, by my head or my heart? What attachments am I ready to release? What will life look like without them? And finally, the fifth layer, our bliss body, Anandamaya Kosha. In your truest form, in yourself, you are bliss. This is the coming together of all the other layers when you have expanded beyond the other koshas and you achieve that self-realization. Bliss is a quiet, non-emotional joy. It is a state of being versus a fleeting emotion. It's like being in flow or kriya. You move from conscious awareness to the feeling of being connected with all things. It's the me to the we. This layer is refined and cultivated through relationships. And there's many types of relationships that I'm talking about here. It could be people in your life who inspire you or bring out the best in you. And it doesn't just have to be people that are living, by the way. It could be people that have passed that continue to be your mentors. We have relationships with things in nature, such as the vastness of the oceans, the mountains, the sturdiness of trees. We have relationships with animals. We have relationships with concepts, ideas, insights, emotional qualities like love or kindness, courage, compassion, wisdom. And we also have relationships with places or things, as long as it's without attachment. So perhaps a temple, a statue, an heirloom, an altar, or a room in your house that you've dedicated to your mental, emotional, physical well-being. One of my favorite practices to support the bliss body is to create a personal ritual. Perhaps that's being in silence with no agenda, or it's sometime in nature. Maybe it has something to do with creating a sacred space, or using oracle cards, or making tea. There's so many different ways that you can create rituals for yourself. And just remember to show yourself grace as you incorporate it into your life. Because again, we want to engage in this activity with non-attachment and root it into your heart. Take your time with it. Make sure it's very enjoyable. Remember, this is about joy and bliss. So some journaling prompts here as well. What brings me joy? What practices make me feel like I am in Kriya or flow? What does it feel like to do things that don't bring me joy? And where can I bring more joy into each day? So that is my very brief explanation of the koshas. I love this topic so much. The more you dive into each of these layers and start to see the interconnectedness and the multidimensionality of our humanness, the more we see ourselves. I hope you enjoy this journey. As always, ask questions, connect with me. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Have a beautiful October day.